Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's begin. The Great Wall of Pennsylvania. My ex and I lived on the main street of a small town. We were next to an older couple, early 60s, who lived above their car restoration business. Their building fronted right on the sidewalk and ran the full length and width of their property. There was a garage door in the middle of the front of the building. It was recessed, set back almost the length of a car, so there was a sort of tunnel/carport. That's where they parked the antique car that was their primary transport. The curb to either side of the garage apron was painted yellow. I had parked our minivan, as was my preference, in front of our house, just outside the no parking zone when we got a big snowfall. It was almost a foot and it was wet and heavy. The husband used a snowblower and cleared their sidewalk and driveway. He blew half of it into a big pile right in front of our van, right up against it. Some even landed on our windshield. There was a car parked a foot behind us, so we had to go through where that pile was if we wanted to drive anywhere. The pile was over 4 feet tall at its peak, and most of it was about 3 feet, just low enough to see over it when he backed out. I did some rough calculations and determined it was nearly a metric ton and a half of snow. I rang their doorbell hoping to start a dialogue about it. They didn't answer. I didn't see that snow as a problem. I saw it as an opportunity. It was the raw material that dreams are made of. My stepson and I spent hours working on that pile. We were up half the night, and I've never seen my stepson put so much effort into anything else, before or since. He understood the grandeur of my plan, and he shared my commitment to it. Together, we made something magnificent and awe-inspiring. We built a wall. The hard part was that even with the snow from our sidewalk, there wasn't enough to realize my vision. I needed more. I did the neighbor on the other side of our twin. I added the snow from along the side of our house, carrying each shovelful to the sidewalk for my stepson to add. Then I got smart and started shoveling snow from the backyard onto a tarp, so I could drag a big pile around with each trip. It started on the curb by the front of the van, and completely enclosed and concealed the no parking sign. It went through and dammed the gutter, and went out into the street at an angle, ending just over a car width from the curb, just before the neighbor's driveway. It was 9.5 feet tall, 11 feet long. It was a foot thick at the curb end and widened to more than 3 feet thick. We used a storage bin to make blocks, and we sprayed each one with water. We used slush as mortar. That thing wasn't coming down without heavy equipment. For weeks afterward, whenever he wanted to leave, his wife had to stand in the street and wave him out when it was clear. The street sloped up slightly towards their property, so a lake formed on their side of the wall and extended to the far end of their property. It was ankle deep where the gutter was, so she had to walk around it. I found out from another neighbor that they called the cops, but I had checked the local ordinances, and it was completely legal. It was entirely within the footprint of the pile the husband had made. It was just taller. There were no restrictions on height. All the relevant ordinance dictated was that a pile of snow couldn't present a risk of damage to property. And the wall didn't. It was structurally sound. What's really amusing about this is the sheer amount of effort this must have taken to do, and not really for any benefit either, just the satisfaction of some really weird and petty revenge, I guess. Throw food at my car? Enjoy deep cleaning your interior. This happened to me about a couple years ago. My wife and I were headed back from a trip to Costco. While there, I grabbed their amazing $1.50 hot dog and drink combo, and mixed iced tea and lemonade together. This is important later. We got off the freeway and I had to stop for a red light on the off-ramp, then immediately caught the next red light off the freeway. As I was waiting for the light and talking to my wife, a little biscuit bounces off the hood of my car, and there was a guy in a pickup with his window rolled down, throwing biscuits out of a bag at my car. I roll down my window and ask, "What the hell?" He says I made him brake hard at the light before, and I should have just driven through. I said the light was red, moron. That's how crap works. I'm sure not running a red light because some dumbass isn't paying attention. He throws another biscuit at my car, so I grab my drink. I'm right-handed, and my car, which is a newer Camaro, has tiny windows, so I didn't have much hope on my accuracy throwing this out the window with my left hand. And this was obviously a work truck. Really doubtful he'd care if he got a drink on the outside of his truck. But I put my faith in the Most High and threw that drink. He watched it fly through the air, totally nonplussed, until it went right through his passenger window and exploded inside his truck. Luke Skywalker didn't feel as accomplished making that shot through the exhaust port as I did, seeing an Arnold Palmer erupt all over his cloth seats. He immediately started searching his truck for something else to throw, and I floored it, laughing as loudly as I could out my window. Trap my dog? You won't trap anything again. So I live in a quite rural part of the world. There's lots of logging, hunting, trapping, and mining that happens all around my neck of the woods, and honestly, I'm fine with it. I work in a field that's affiliated with this kind of industrial work. However, I've worked hard to make sure I live far away from other people's BS, so I don't have to deal with this kind of stuff. But of course, my neighbor changed that. I moved to my home about 2 years ago, in the early summer. I'd always wanted to live here and it was perfect, until the middle of my first winter here. While we were outside working, my younger dog ran off into the woods. Not uncommon for her, she likes to explore. But just after we start looking for her, we heard the sounds of an animal in distress, not far from us. We went as quick as we could to find the source of the noise. That's when we found our dog caught in a wolf snare. The only reason she survived was because she had put her leg through the snare as well as her head, so her leg protected her throat from full strangulation. We were able to free her and she recovered quick. I know the guy who set the traps. As it turned out, he's my neighbor. When I spoke to him about it, he refused to take it down, even though it's very close to the property line. Now for context, me, a 24-year-old male, and my 23-year-old girlfriend love this dog so much. She's the sweetest pup, and she's been through a lot, medical issues and injuries. She is a huge part of our world. My girlfriend would be destroyed if anything happened to her. The dog did well for another year until today. I was at work when I received a call from my brother. The same dog had gone exploring, while him and his girlfriend were outside working. They heard her making sounds of distress not far away and rushed to her immediately. They found her again in a wolf trap, set by the same guy in the same place. For more context, this guy has never said anything to us about where he puts or when he sets up his traps, but it's along a trail near my home that people walk and ski on, often with dogs. These traps are baited with meat to attract wolves, so obviously it would attract dogs too. My brother and my girlfriend, with the help of my mom, were able to free her just before I managed to get there from work. They had also run into the owner of the trap on their way out of the woods. When they confronted him, he simply said our dogs shouldn't be so dumb, and it was his trap line. We told him if he didn't dismantle the traps, we would. He simply replied, "Oh, okay," and left. Our dog is okay, and due to how close his traps are to our property, we have reported him to authorities. But so far, we have heard nothing. So as a group, me and my family have decided that if they want to threaten the safety and freedom of us and our loyal dogs, we will take it into our own hands. Starting this week, we will be going up there daily to trip every single trap by hand, so they can't catch a dang thing. Don't get me wrong, I have huge respect for fur hunters and trappers, but not if you're irresponsible and trapping in what is essentially people's backyards. I'll make sure you never trap a wolf or anything near my home again, you a-hole. Don't f*** with my dogs. Edit. The land the traps are on is public land owned by the government, for use by anyone who lives here. It's in the same area I harvest my firewood. The neighbor in question lives 4 kilometers from this area, and I only live a few hundred meters away. It's not his land at all. He simply has a trap line that, according to some more research we've done, might not be legal. Also, apparently they aren't even wolf traps. They're wolverine traps. I've lived here for decades and I've never seen a wolverine once. Recently, they began a large-scale logging operation in the area where the traps are. We expected this, as they do at most winters. Today, my brother decided to go up the road to look around at the progress they had made. He just so happened to run into a worker in a large excavator, whom he struck up a conversation with. This conversation led to the operator asking about the traps he had noticed while working up there. My brother explained to him what we knew of the traps and the situation we had run into with the dog. This guy must have sympathized with us a lot, because after asking my brother where the other traps were, and my brother telling him, the guy goes to his work truck parked nearby, grabs a cordless cutting tool, and proceeded to cut up every single trap, before digging a hole with his excavator, burying them and packing the soil. I'll be bringing this man whiskey when I find out who he is. It does seem like the legality of the situation is a bit gray and hard to say for sure, but when it really comes down to it, especially in a rural area like this, I think it's probably pretty important to just respect the people around you. Even if him setting traps there is technically not against the law, which, again, we don't know for sure, OP and his family had told them that it's a danger for their dogs, and he seemed to just disregard it. So in that case, I really don't blame OP or the logging people to take matters into their own hands. "Oh, you wanted my parking spot?" It was Christmas time and the mall parking lot was jammed. Somehow I lucked into a space near an entrance. And 4 hours later, my friend Don and I staggered back to my car with full arms and very sore feet. But we'd be home in half an hour, so the end was in sight. We got the bag stowed and we buckled in, laughing ruefully about how exhausted we were. As I began backing out, a car was slowly pulling past right behind me. Naturally, I braked to wait for the car to clear my spot, but the driver saw my brake lights and realized she lucked out. All she had to do was back up and let me out, and my primo spot would be hers. But it wouldn't be that easy. Another car was tight on her tail, and that driver wanted my spot too, and neither one of them was budging. The two drivers' faces got redder and redder as they honked, revved their engines to make the other driver think they were going to plow right into their car if it didn't move, and in general made utter asses out of themselves over the parking spot. Meanwhile, my friend and I were trapped and getting pretty mad ourselves. After more than 5 minutes of this craziness, motor running but going nowhere, Dawn and I had had enough. We looked at each other and smiled. Then we got out of the car, locked it back up, and waved at the two disbelieving parking warriors as we headed back into the mall for a much-needed drink and a bite to eat. Guy didn't like taxi pulling into his driveway to let a bus through. This happened a few years back. We were traveling down a country road to my school via a taxi when a bus showed up. So we pulled over and blocked a driveway to let the bus through. It was only going to be for a few seconds. However, the homeowner didn't like it. He came storming out, demanding the driver to get out of the driveway. The following interactions ensued. Paraphrased. "Get out of my driveway, why are you in there? There's a bus coming through." You'd think this guy would have seen at least hints we were letting a bus through. What does he expect us to do? Reverse back down the road and out of a junction? But he says, "I don't care, get out of the driveway." "I am letting a bus through," said the taxi driver. Even the bus driver steps in. "They were letting me through," the bus driver said. The entitled man really wasn't having it and demanded we get out of his driveway. To which my taxi driver responded with a "F off." The bus eventually gets through and we eventually get out of his driveway. All that over what? A few seconds of someone being in your driveway to let a bus through? Well guys, thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, I'm out of here, so take care guys, and I'll see you next time.